Is it just me, or is 1440p gaming getting quite expensive? If you look up guides online, people are telling you to get an X3D CPU with a 5080 or 5090. In reality, the likelihood of you actually using that power from your high-end CPU is quite low, because believe it or not, the higher the resolution and the higher the settings, the less your CPU is being stressed. So unless you need the 3D V-cache for a specific game or task, you probably aren't going to utilize it and you probably won't know the difference. So we're going to build this modern 1440p gaming PC using all new parts that fits under £1,500 and looks great. And we're going to be kicking it off with the Ryzen 5 9600X. It has 6 cores and 12 threads based on 5.4 GHz and 32 MB of L3 cache. Now for those of you who aren't nerds, that basically means it's pretty good for 1440p gaming, and it's one of the better CPUs you can get for under £200. And next up is the motherboard, which is the ASUS Prime V650 MA Wi-Fi 2, because the first one wasn't good enough. We really chose it because it has most features that 99% of people really need, such as built-in Wi-Fi, plenty of USBs at the back, 2.5 gig LAN, dual M.2 slots, 4 RAM slots, and of course support for our CPU. By going with AM5, you also get pretty good compatibility for upgrades further down the line to something like a 7800X3D or 9800X3D. When installing our CPU, we need to check that the gold triangle on the CPU aligns with the one on the motherboard. In the case of AM5 CPUs, it's usually this way, but it is always worth double checking. Then all you need to do is just gently lower the CPU down into the socket, align all 4 corners, and then just drop it in. You can always give it a little bit of a wiggle just to make sure that it's in place, but make sure not to damage those pins. And then just drop the top and secure with a retention bracket, and make sure to save this in your motherboard box in case the motherboard ever needs to go back for RMA, because it won't be accepted otherwise. If you have around £30 to £40 extra, you could go for a B850 option. This one has some extra features like Wi-Fi 6E, an M.2 heatsink, PCIe Gen 5, and some faster USBs. So if those features are worth the extra money to you, you could go with the B850 rather than the B650, and we can also swap them out on our pre-built gaming PC, so just drop us a message if you want us to upgrade it. Next up, we need to install our CPU cooler, which is the Gamemax Sigma 550. It's a bit of a funny name, but that's not why we chose it. I actually chose it because of how it looks. It has a built-in mirror into the top of the CPU cooler, which is going to look quite nice when we fully assemble the build. Compared to the competition, Gamemax is not known for their performance on the CPU coolers, but our 9600X does not draw much power, so it should be completely fine for this PC. And all we need to do is remove the built-in AM5 hooks that come with your motherboard and install these mounting brackets instead. Secure them with a screwdriver until they are snug, add some thermal paste, and make sure to remove the sticker at the bottom of your CPU cooler before you install it. I already did that, but I forgot to press record, so please don't judge me. Then gently lower the CPU cooler onto the brackets and secure them with a screwdriver. This CPU cooler actually mounts with the fan already installed on it. For a lot of CPU coolers, you have to take the fan off before you secure it into place, but for this one, they're installed together. And then just make sure to plug in your CPU fan into the CPU fan connector and tidy up the cables a little bit. Next up is the RAM, and we're using 32GB in dual channel from Kingston Fury RGB, running at 6,000 mega transfers per second. Now, given how expensive RAM has gotten recently, I wouldn't look too closely on the exact make and model of this. You probably just want the cheapest kit that you can get from a decent brand that doesn't cost too much. The main thing you'll be looking for is the generation, which is DDR5, not DDR4. Capacity measured in gigabytes, so 16 or 32. We recommend 32 for this system, but you can go with 16. Speed measured in mega transfers per second. The minimum I'd recommend for that is 5200 mega transfers per second, but we go with a 6000 kit. And cache latency, which usually starts with CL and a number, so for example CL36. The lower the number, the lower the latency. Now be slightly careful when you do this, because you have a notch to align on the motherboard slot along with the RAM. It only goes in one way, so if you get it wrong, you're probably going to break something. Next up is the SSD, and this one is a Crucial E100 1TB. And for this one, I also recommend you go for the cheapest option you can find from a reliable brand that isn't going to break the bank, but at the speeds that you desire. Unfortunately, this one is green, so it's not the best for our aesthetics. We did get a good deal on this one, and the green PCB is not going to make any performance difference. It's still a Gen 4 NVMe SSD with some good read and write speeds. And just like that, the motherboard assembly is finished, and it's time to put this beast in the case. And for that, we are going to CiT Eclipse RGB, which has 3 glass panels, one at the top, side, and the front. Now that is going to affect our airflow a little bit, but like I mentioned before, our build doesn't take too much power, and it comes with 3 RGB fans pre-installed, so it's not going to be too much of an issue. You get 2 reverse fan set as intake on the side and 1 reverse at the back. And now it's time to install our motherboard into the case. And just before you do that, remember to install your I/O shield, so you don't need to remount your motherboard again later down the line. When installing the motherboard, you want to make sure that your standoffs are fully screwed in, matching the position on your motherboard. For this one, we use 8. Move some cables out the way if you need to, and slowly position it towards the rear I/O shield. You want to be very gentle when you do this, and just make sure everything's aligned, and make sure that all the holes align with the standoffs. Most cases use these screws, but double check with the manual so you don't cross thread the standoffs. And then you want to hold the motherboard in place and secure all 8 screws just gently until they're finger tight. And once you've secured all them in place, it's time to do some cable management. This case comes with an RGB hub for all your fans and LEDs. You also get a handful of front panel connectors for your motherboard, and this is how I routed them. You start from the top where the front panel connectors are and just move them across and tie them to this little bracket. And then you shoot the cables down and make sure to bundle them all together to keep them all in place. And then connect the front panel USB 3, then the ARGB connector, fan connector, and finally the HD audio. And that should be all the case cables connected, so it's now time for the power supply. And for that we are going with Thermalright, which is a TR-KG750 750 watt 80 plus gold rated power supply, fully modular. It supports ATX 3.1 and PCIe 5.1 out the box, which means our 12-pin cable will come as standard for our graphics card. For this specific PC, we're going to need the SATA power cable for our RGB controller, an 8-pin for our CPU cable, the new 12-pin for our graphics card, and of course the 24-pin motherboard power. And then we install the power supply into the case and secure it with some screws. And then we want to make sure everything's neat and tidy, so I'm going to start with a 24-pin motherboard cable because it's the biggest one. You just want to make sure everything's nice and secure and that there's no gaps around the power cable. And next we connect the CPU power cable by threading it through the top. And this one should be nice and easy because we removed the top glass panel. And after tying everything together and plugging in the SATA power for our RGB hub, we are just left with the 12-pin graphics card cable. And finally we have the graphics card, which for that we're going to be using the Zotac Solid OC Edition RTX 5070 12GB. This should give us some pretty decent performance overall on 1440p high settings. This Zotac model is one of the cheapest ones that we could find on the market, but that's not going to make too much difference in terms of performance. It's still a 5070 and it comes with 2 fans, so it's going to be plenty for cooling, and it pairs really well with our 9600X. So let's get it installed, test the performance and see how the final build turns out. Wow, that really did turn out pretty well, like, didn't it? I like the little LED at the top, and I'm digging the blue, to be fair. I think my favourite part is the CPU cooler. I like the infinity mirror, how it matches the rest of the build. And to be fair, the Zotac 5070, that all matches up pretty well as well with the white LED. I thought the white LED would be out of place a little bit, but to be fair, because of how small it is and how like subtle it is, I think it ties it up very nicely. And we all know how it looks is not exactly how it's going to perform. So let's test it out in a couple of benchmarks, as we wanted this PC to play 1440p games on high settings. So let's see if it does that. Starting with Battlefield 6, we were able to crank the settings all the way up to high without DLSS or frame gen enabled. We managed to get quite a few kills and finished the game with Conquest with an average of 130 FPS. Next up, we tested Fortnite, first on performance mode with low settings, and set the view distance all the way up to epic. This allowed the PC to achieve an average of 444 FPS and helped us get a sweet victory royale, which I was quite proud of because I barely get to play nowadays. We then turned all the settings up with DX12 and set everything up to high, which gave us an average FPS of just over 160 FPS. And finally, we ran the Cyberpunk benchmark on the high preset with DLSS enabled. This allowed us to get a final average frame rate of 175 FPS. So overall, I think we did a pretty good job on this build. Overall, it came under £1,500 and it plays most games at 1440p high settings, including Cyberpunk and Battlefield 6, very smoothly. And if you're wondering how much this PC actually cost, I've dropped the PC part picker list down below. That comes to just over £1,400 without Windows installed. And we all know not everyone wants to build their own PC, and that's where we come in. We actually sell this system for $14.99 with a 3-year warranty, free express shipping, and you get exactly what you see. You get this PC that clearly performs well at 1440p high settings, looks amazing, and you get 3-year warranty with free express shipping. So if all that sounds interesting to you, why not give it a shot and head over to obsidianpc.gg. We do pre-built PCs, custom PCs, and we ship all over the UK completely free. And thank you everyone for watching, and I hope you have a great time gaming on your PC.